to a new member of our community and our host for today, Wesleyan Greer. Wesleyan has 10 plus years in sales and leadership. She's managed multi-million-dollar teams. She's combined her love for sales and her passion for coaching at Transform Sales, her company, where she teaches sales managers to be confident sales leaders. Thank you for putting this event on today, Wesleyan. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here with you all today. And so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to launch a poll. So if you would just answer those 2 quick questions for me, it will help me ensure that the topics, the examples that I give are relevant to you. And so as you're launching the poll, this first session in our series of 4 is going to be a little bit different. So we're going to focus on what I like to call sales mindset and understanding how you can best position yourself in the marketplace. Because before we can start prospecting or selling or doing any of those things, we must have our mind right and we must know who we serve. So that is what we're going to be focusing on today. And as Mac mentioned, we may have breakout rooms, or since we have a small group, we may all kind of stay together and just talk through it together. But I do want this to be interactive. So if you have a question as I'm talking, raise your hand and Mac can kind of poke me. I'm going to share my screen so it's harder to see the hands raised at the same time. But just let me know. All right, I'll give it about 20 more seconds. Seems like 3 people still need to vote. So if you would, just select your option, please, your options. All right. Okay, so it seems like we actually have a pretty good mix of people here. Let me share the results with you. So as you can see, we have a lot of people doing B2C, B2B, a little bit of both. Most people have what I would consider a higher ticket sale. So if we think about your client over a year making anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000. So that is a higher ticket sale, which is more of a relationship-based sale. So again, that will ensure that I am on the right page when I'm talking to you. So let me share my screen here. All righty. Can you guys all see it? Matt, can you see it? Because I can see you. Okay. So when you're in sales, the first step is always the hardest, right? So the hardest thing that you ever have to do is just get out of the mindset that sales sucks and put yourself out there. So many times we have what I like to call these self-limiting beliefs. And these self-limiting beliefs are really what hold us back from becoming more successful at sales. So I'm going to go through a few, and afterwards we're going to have a discussion about what resonated with you. And as I'm going through, I'm going to be giving you tips on how to overcome some of these things. So the need for approval. Everybody wants to be liked, right? We have friends, we have family, and we think that our prospects, our customers have to like us. They don't have to like you. Liking you is not important. You don't need them to approve of you or your lifestyle, how you look, how you dress. You want them to respect you, right? So the difference between being approved by a prospect and being liked by a prospect is one of the things that holds us back. So respect, expertise, knowledge, those are the things that are most important for your prospects to have. Just anxiety, right? Depending on the industry we're in, some people said that they're in a B2C industry, some are in B2B. So people will say, you should just cold call. Why don't you cold call? And you're like, no, I don't want to cold call. And that just gives you anxiety. Then you get a prospect or you get a person that you want to talk to, and it's like, well, now I have this big meeting that I have to attend and I'm nervous. What if I say the wrong thing? Because you have so many of your marbles that are in this bucket. So the key is it's okay to mess up, right? And it's okay to not always know the right things to say, but you have to start. being anxious or being afraid because maybe you lost the last 2 deals, or maybe you got the phone hung up in your face 10 times, isn't a good reason to not try again. Negative self-talk. This is a big one, because if you're a solopreneur or you're working remotely, most people are still working remotely, you have this, what I call negative self-talk. And that is, I'm not good enough, or I can't do this, or I can't do that, or last time this happened. And so that, I call that head trash. All of that head trash prevents you from really getting out there, getting on the bike and trying it again. So again, when you have those moments of negative self-talk, when you're talking down to yourself, the one thing that I say is talk to yourself as you would talk to your best friend. So if your best friend came to you and said, I just lost a $10,000 deal, would you say, you suck? Oh my gosh, you did this wrong, you did that wrong, this is horrible, that's horrible? No, you would comfort them and say, oh man, that's quite unfortunate, but let's talk about it. What things could you have done differently? What did you do this? Did you do that? Well, maybe next time, why don't you do that? Sometimes we have to have those conversations with ourselves, because again, when you get in that mode of negative self-talk, it prevents you from getting back on the horse. Perfectionism. Everybody wants to be perfect, right? We all want to be that shiny gold star in the middle. And so being perfect prevents us from launching the new product, prevents us from saying, I'm going to break into this new market, because you need to have all your ducks in a row. And you feel like, if I'm not perfect, I'm not going to be able to get it done. You don't have to be perfect. Done is better than perfect. If you're going to launch a new product or go into a new market or hire a new salesperson, again, you just have to try it. It's just like picking up the phone and cold calling, or shooting an email, or reconnecting with an old colleague. You just have to do it. Big ego. So a lot of us as small business owners, we think that hey, I know how to do this. I don't need to change. I've been doing this forever, right? And so it's opposite of that person who has so much self-doubt. Sometimes our big ego prevents us from trying something different. So if you say, I've always done it this way, this has always worked for me, and I don't care what anybody says, the only way that I can generate business is referrals, right? And so that's all I'm going to do. I'm only going to be out there, and I'm only going to meet new people. I'm not going to do anything digitally. I'm not going to do anything education-based marketing. I'm only going to do this. That big ego is preventing you from opening up the world or the realm of sales. And a big ego in a room with a prospect can be a turnoff. Because if they think that you're just too big, you're filling the room and it's all about you, they don't want to work with you. So there's a balance. There's a balance of being confident and having way too big of an ego. And momentum. This can be both positive and negative. When you have positive momentum, the things that tend to happen are, oh, I just won that $50,000 deal. Let me go buy drinks for everyone. I'm going to go on a vacation. I'm going to relax for 2 weeks because I just closed this big deal. But what about everything else that was in the pipeline? What about the next big deal, right? So that's how momentum, positive momentum, can stop you in your tracks, because that positive momentum, it's like you're too excited. So you stop doing everything. And then the negative momentum is on the other side. It's when you lose that $50,000 deal that you've been working on for 6 months, and you just are in the gutter. You don't get up and keep moving the next day. You just sit there and you stay in that space. Again, that headspace. Everything that we're talking about in this piece is all about that sales mindset, that headspace that you need to really push through. And again, when we think about that positive momentum and the negative momentum, there's always a balance. You win a big deal, it's okay. Go celebrate, plan a vacation for in 3 months or 2 months or the weekend, but get back on the horse the next day. When you lose a deal, the same rule applies. If you feel like you need to take the day off, just take the day off, not the week, the day off. And the next day, get right back on it and go back out there and keep on fighting. So what really distinguishes the winners versus the losers? People who have a winning sales mindset, they keep trying. They get knocked down, but they get back up again. They get knocked down, but they get back up again. They're willing to try something different. I would consider all of you sales winners because you've taken an hour out of your time to develop yourself professionally. Whether you've been in sales for 2 months or 20 years, you should always find some type of professional development. I would consider myself maybe a sales pro or a sales expert, but I still do professional development. I just signed up for a new course that I'm going to start next month because a winning mindset is a growth mindset. So always invest in yourself. Always figure out, what did I do right and what did I do wrong when I win a deal, when I lose a deal. Every single opportunity or deal in your pipeline should be triaged when it closes. I won this. What did I do right? How can I replicate this success? I lost this. How can I not replicate what I did? Those with losing mindsets don't do any of those things. They just take the loss and they just say, oh, well, I lost. What's next? Oh, well, yeah, I read that book like 3 years ago. Yeah, I already did that. Yeah, I'm an accountant. I only do the bare minimum continuing education to check the box, and I don't even pay attention to it because I'm great. I know everything, right? So people who have that very fixed mindset of I know everything, I can do it alone, those are the ones who tend to be sales losers. That's what I call them, sales losers. So be a sales winner, have a growth mindset, figure out how to refocus when things don't go right. And that is the next slide, refocus. So at the end of the day, sales is a mind game. Sales can absolutely be taught. I have taught people who are engineers and chemists in a lab working with beakers how to sell stuff. You can teach yourself how to sell, you can learn how to sell. So you must refocus. Refocusing is the key because sales is this equilibrium. There are really high highs and really low lows. So really to get into that equilibrium, when you're in a moment of feeling I'm on top of the world, enjoy that, bask in that. You've earned that. You put hours and hours in, so you should enjoy it. But you always need to be thinking about what's the next thing. Every time I close a deal, I'm already thinking about the next one that I need to work on. I'm like, okay, great. I got that purchase order. What's next? Right? And the same thing when you lose. When you lose, it's a lot harder because, again, your emotions are inside of it. You think that, well, they didn't want to buy from me because the notion is people buy from people. They don't buy from companies. So you may take it personally and say, they didn't like me. They didn't want to buy from me. But remember that need for approval. You don't matter. What in your delivery was off. Maybe they didn't have a problem today that they needed to solve. Maybe they thought they were ready, but they weren't. So you have to always refocus. So now I'm going to take a moment and I want us to, we don't have a huge group, so I want us to share together. Nobody's on camera, everybody's just listening. So I'm looking at black boxes, but that's okay. So I want a couple people to share in that first session that I delivered. Tell me about sales mindset. What really resonated with you?
Hi, I'm Maxine, and the one that really resonated with me that I was taking notes on was done is better than perfect. That one really resonated with me because sometimes I get really nervous about my performance, like you said, Leslie, with the perfectionism, and I do a lot of presentations. I want the presentation to go well. I want it to go exactly as I, prepared it, and the follow-up, I think, is also difficult for me to think about. How do I continue talking to these people that I presented to? And lately I've been learning that being so worried about the result was actually paralyzing me from taking any action. So that one really resonated with me, that thinking back to those times when I, did send off that email, or if I did make that call, at least the fact that it was done, whether or not the person wanted to continue talking to me, did actually make me feel a lot better.
That's good. I'm glad that you're able to see that, because again, the self-realization or being true with yourself is so important in sales. So since you were willing to share, and I don't know if you know anybody else on the call, but it takes something to be vulnerable and open up and share things that you're struggling with a bit. So I want us to come up with an action plan. So let's think about, you mentioned a couple things that you feel are holding you back. Which one do you think is the biggest?
I think one thing that's holding me back is I feel like I've been studying a lot of sales techniques, and I'm, for a little bit of background, I'm a newer independent consultant. So before that, I was working more in media, and I never really had to think too much about the one-on-one sales. So one thing that's holding me back, I think, is like not having enough practice. So not having enough people even coming through the door for me to even practice consultations with. And I think if I had that, I wouldn't be as upset or as hung up on the result of each meeting, because now it's like intermittently people would book times to talk to me. And I think if I had at least like 2 meetings a day, or 2 meetings a week even, I'd be able to look forward to the next thing if a meeting didn't go the way I wanted it to go. So I think that's really kind of holding me back and keeps me from practicing.
Awesome. So I congratulations on launching your own business. And
Thanks.
one thing that is really important is a lot of times this, and so what I heard from you, it's that perfectionism, right? Kind of like you said. And our next session that we're going to be talking about in a few minutes, we're actually going to be talking about honing in on your ideal market and ideal clients. So that's going to help you focus there some more. But what I would say is, when you're just starting out, like, don't be scared of rejection. You need to practice. So practice. Like, get on LinkedIn and see if somebody who you may be connected with, but you never talked to them before, just reach out to them. Hey, can we schedule a call? Right? We're already connected. We've been connected. It's not like it's one of those annoying spammy messages that people get all the time, because at the end of the day, especially when you're new, you're gonna screw up, you're gonna flubber. And if you make those mistakes on someone that doesn't matter, that you don't care if you win or not, it builds your confidence. So my advice to you would be, just get out there, just do it, just try.
Hey, Wesleyan, I just had a comment from Maxine, and that was that, she said that the meeting didn't go the way that she wanted. I mean, I guess I've been around the block a lot, and to me, the meetings, you can turn them. I mean, you have to go with the flow. I've had walked in with presentations, and we got to page 1, and we never did the rest of the deck. So you have to, and a conversation is actually better to engage them when you're beholden to a deck and you think that's what you want to do. That's nice. You can always leave the deck or send it afterwards. You don't need to go through it. It's about engagement. And I think her other point that was very well taken was that, which I've learned, they don't have to like you. It's not a popularity contest. You want them to respect you, because at the end of the day, what are they buying? They're buying their trust and confidence that you've sold them a service or a product that's going to be right for them. Even if your price is higher or there's other issues or obstacles. And I just think those are the things. So I guess I've been around, so I don't ever walk away from a presentation or a meeting and go, oh, that went terribly. I've had people, leave in the middle. I've had them, all kinds of things happen in a meeting. You never know. Someone that you didn't know attends and they butt in every 3 minutes and have contrary comments. It actually kind of makes it a challenge and interesting in a way, as opposed to this mundane presentation. So sometimes when you're kind of taken for a loop, just kind of gather your thoughts quickly and just deal with the moment and proceed. Because the other thing you want to do is you want to proceed that in the way that they want, not the way that you want. You think you want to tell them all this information. They might not care about 80% of what you're presenting. They only maybe care about 1 or 2 things. Usually it's price. And one way, and a lot of times I've seen people in the paper one, they'll flip to the end to see what the cost is. And I go, no cheating here. No cheating. We're going to, and they kind of breaks the ice, right? So you can kind of tell them, hold on, wait, let's wait a second. I'll get there. I think this doesn't make any sense out of context. You can look at it. I don't know what you're going to make out of it, but go ahead. And then you kind of make a joke out of it. And so then you put them at ease, you put yourself at ease. And if you can do that, it's really great. But I think a lot of it just comes from, actually, I hate to say this, experience, just doing it over and over again.
So
there's no trial and error, and
the goal, right? To get out there as much as possible, to ensure that you're practicing, and remember, your product well, you understand your service, your product, and so at the end of the day, you're the expert in the room, right? And if you say something wrong, do they know if it's right or wrong? I mean, they don't, right? So you may be beating yourself up, but it's okay. And like I said, you triage it. So right now, when you're just having a few meetings per week, what went well? What didn't go well? What should I do next? Sit down and really debrief on every single one. Okay. One more person. Does anyone else want to share anything that resonated with them in that first session?
But I would also add, if you don't mind, that Maxine, you got to think that when you go into those calls, you're in the driver's seat. You're steering the wheel. If you want to veer to the left, you go to the left. They can guide you, but you at the end, you can control it. So, and you have to read their body language. If they're not interested in looking at your presentation, some people get bored in a minute. They want to talk, and some people don't want to talk. They're not engaged. Then you know that you have to present and keep talking. You have to read the audience too. So
that's really good when that resonated with me. I think the last time
we'll be talking about sales nurturing, and sales nurturing is all about that first meeting, the demo, the proposal, how to do all of those things. So we'll delve a little bit deeper in there. But right now I want you to just focus on putting yourself out there. Literally, it's just getting out there, and whatever happens on the other side, it doesn't matter as much, just execute. Okay. So let me get back to our presentation. All righty. So one of my favorite sayings, there are riches in the niches. So many of us think that, especially when we're starting out, we have to go wide, we have to go broad. I have to be everything to everyone. That is 100% false. You need to be focused on your area of expertise. Granularity is very, very, very important. So when we think about granularity, I like to break it all the way down to the micro niche. So we start with our market, right? So let's see, since Maxine was so awesome and she wanted to share before, I'm going to put you back on the hot seat, Maxine. What is the... Oops. I wasn't talking to you, Siri, sorry. Maxine, so what kind of consultant are you?
I'm a college consultant. So I help successful parents in my area and their college-bound students find their best fit colleges and strategize a way for admissions.
Awesome. Okay. So your broad market is going to be high school seniors, right? So high school senior colleges, you're targeting the parents. And so I would say high school seniors is probably going to be your broad market, right? So then we need to get down to a niche, right? And how we niche down or how we get smaller or more granular is we think about specific characteristics of those high school seniors, whether it's the colleges that they're going to, their socioeconomic background, the activities they did in college, like what about those parents of seniors resonates with you the most?
The parents that specifically I'm targeting are the ones who've had a track record of putting their kids in paid extracurricular activities. So that's usually things like paid sports teams, especially the ones who are at a more elite level, or art, music, things like that. And I'm specifically targeting the certain school districts here that represent families with higher incomes. So we're actually here in California, a little bit south of LA in Orange County, and there's a big drive for education, and some of it is for the degree, but a lot of it is for the status. So the people who I'm targeting are the people who really do want that status and that sense of security for their children, that whether or not they are able to get the dream job that they want, at least they have a degree to fall back on. So although this doesn't necessarily match my personal take on the value of a college education, I think there's a lot of people who can be helped in this way here.
Okay, so your market is parents of high school seniors. Your niche is the ones who are actually paying for extracurricular activities. And then your micro niche would be the school district. So if it was the LA County School District. So again, when Maxine is thinking about all the stuff that we'll be talking about next time in terms of her prospecting, in terms of her content on social media, all of that, it needs to be directed toward those parents that put their kids in those extracurriculars in that particular school district, right? And her goal is to be the big fish in that small pond. And once she's the big fish in that small little pond, other people are going to start coming to her. And then when she's maxed out that school district, she can go to the next school district. But you have to be laser focused, absolutely laser focused. So here is another example that I have. So somebody may sell technology to accountants that are solopreneurs, right? So they can sell their technology to, let's say, any service-based business. But if they go out there and they look for any service-based business with 1 to 500 employees, they're going to have this giant list. And when you talk to everyone, you talk to no one. So that's important. When you talk to everyone, you talk to no one. But when they can say, my software, my technology helps accountants that are in single people firms maximize their efficiency, double their output, triple their clientele, that resonates to that specific audience. And so they are attracted more to them. And so one final example before I pop back out again is me. So who am I? What do I do? So I am a sales coach. I'm a sales consultant, right? But I'm also a chemist. So I focus on STEM companies. So this is actually my LinkedIn banner. And so when somebody comes to my LinkedIn profile, if they're one of those STEM companies, they're like, okay, oh, and she's a chemist. Oh yeah, this is the person I want to talk to. So I've already brought down that layer, that barrier that a lot of people have, that reservation. Do I work with other companies? Absolutely. I have an assisted living company right now that I work with. I've helped a retail company. I've helped caterers. I mean, I've done a lot. But again, when I am out there in front of people, this is what I say. So the companies that are in that specific field, they know, hey, she can really help me. So now I'm going to stop sharing my screen again. And I want some other people to share. Let me help you find your micro niche.
Okay, who's gonna share? Might have to call on somebody.
If I could see people's faces, I would.
Mm.
Sonia, you unmuted and showed your face before, so I'm gonna call on you.
Come on, Sonia.
Okay, coming. It was multitasking. I'll be right there. Hey, everyone.
Hello.
Okay, let's see. What resonated with me was um, the one about doing things alone or just kind of like being in a fixed space. And for me, I have been relying on interns. And with this pandemic, the interns are not around, or the ones through senior year with New York City's Department of Education. And so it's like, whatever I had delegated to them in the past as part of their training and apprenticeship, I'm now having to do myself. And those students, they were really good. And because they were so much younger, they gave me fresh ideas. And so now it's like I'm starting with you from the ground up.
Mm-hmm. I see. And so, I think that one thing is that we always have to realize within our businesses that we need to always reassess and figure out what changes to make in order to ensure that we're going to be successful in sales. So the topic that we were just chatting about was be really your micro niche. So focusing on the specific person or that target audience that you help, and how you help them and how you serve them. So you mentioned that you used interns before, but what is your company? What do you do?
Oh, okay. So I am a film producer and distributor. And I also, through the production company, have a film festival, the Interfaith Film and Music Festival. And so the three types of clients are sponsors, the people who actually attend, so the ticket holders, audience, and then third, those particular vendors who are I interact with and strategic partner with to make each day go live. And prior to COVID, uh, things were in live pop-up venue spaces. And after or during COVID or whatever we're in right now, it's in a virtual platform. So then, although the virtual experience is what is being sold, but it's now in a kind of more just changed perspective, in which how I have to package the value to them in terms of being involved, being a sponsor, or attending.
Awesome. So Sonia gave us a really good example about something that I want to focus on. So she said she had 3 target markets, right? So she had the sponsors, the vendors, and she also had the ticket holders. So when we are focusing on our micro niche, it's okay to have several micro niches, several target markets, but we have to figure out which one is the top priority. And when we think about the top priority, again, because our content, when we're speaking, whatever we're doing, we want to speak to the person. For instance, my micro niche, or the person who I'm talking to, is generally a sales manager, a business owner at one of these STEM companies. And so I know it's typically a man. So when I write content, I say he, I don't say she. It's small things like that because you want people to resonate. So if you're talking to, so let's kind of back up. So I know that what you do, but what's your specific type of event? Is it like a real estate event, education event, hospitality? What kind of events?
A screening of films and music videos.
Okay, so screening of films and music videos, that would be your market. And then your niches, is there a certain genre? Is there a certain part of the world or country that these films come from?
They usually have a faith-based wellness or spirituality focus.
Okay, so film festivals that are faith-based, faith or wellness-based. And the micro niche is who do you want to attract there? Who are the people that you want to attend?
Okay, people who are interested in personal development.
Okay, all right. So your target micro niche, people who are interested in personal development of faith-based films, essentially, right? So that is kind of like your statement. So now you take that statement and you go to vendors and say, hey, vendor, this is who is going to show up. Hey, sponsor, this is who's going to show up. Hey, person, all of your friends and different people from different walks of life are going to be there. And so do you see how just focusing in on that person really dictates the whole world?
Yes, thank you for that.
Yeah. And so that's how granular and specific we should be with these micro niches. So does anyone else want to pop on, tell me what they do? Do you need help figuring out your micro niche?
Hello.
Hi, Tatiana.
It's a little dark in here. Well, now that Sonia mentioned the whole like having multiple kind of directions when it comes to that type of situation, what I do is I'm a financial educator, and I also am able to facilitate certain services, not all the services, but certain services. And I have been more focused on the educational component. Because of course, when you educate, if they need, let's say, insurance, then I can facilitate that, but that's just an add-on. So lately I have been struggling with my niche because of course, everyone is struggling financially, but I can't help everyone. And I want to focus, I want to figure out that micro. I have my niche, which is people living paycheck to paycheck, which is like a lot of people. But I have been narrowing it down to more of millennials, based upon just the people that I've been talking to. And I thought about just focusing on women, but then I also have guys who are asking for help. So I don't know if any of that made any sense.
Yes.
But yeah, so, like I want to educate on personal finance. And
so your market is personal financial education. Mm-hmm. Your niche is people living paycheck to paycheck, right? And then the micro niche, it needs to be something definable, right? Something that we can search for. And so somebody living paycheck to paycheck, and you also have to, I think Maxine mentioned that she said, well, you know, this isn't necessarily something that I am passionate about or something I believe in. And that's another conversation. I don't want to dig into that. But since you kind of mentioned who you want to help, what in that are you most passionate about? Is it single moms? Is it immigrants? Is it people working in retail? Is it teachers? So really figure out what is a defining characteristic within that person working paycheck to paycheck. Who is that person? Who specifically are you looking for?
Well, there's definitely a lot of people in that category, so I definitely understand that question. And that's what I've been struggling with.
Splash. So what I would encourage you to do is you may have to do research, right? Like I came up with my STEM thing. I mean, I'm a chemist, but it really didn't resonate with me. But when you search for like sales training for technical companies, there's so few people out there. So I can make a big splash because not a lot of people are doing it, right? So where can you make the biggest splash? Is nobody talking to retail workers, restaurant workers, hospitality, single moms, you know, maybe incarcerated people? I don't know. I'm just throwing out things, and search for those terms online. Look on Facebook, look on Instagram, look all over and search and see what's not the market that's not being tapped or the niche that's not being tapped. That's what you want to be. You want to be the big fish in a small pond.
Yes. And I think I get too caught up with the research. So that's why I've done a lot of it, and, you know, but.
Just be targeted, very, very targeted. Say, okay, this is what I'm looking for. And once you have that, again, just list it down, right? Just list it down. And then after you make your list of, maybe you'll have 10, narrow down to 3, and then test it, right? And again, if you're at a entry-level phase in your business, have 2 to 3. You might say, yep, that one doesn't work. You don't have to be so super laser focused in the beginning because you don't know what will work and what won't work.
Okay, that makes it a lot better, just because now that's where I'm at. I'm testing certain things, and I'm hoping with that testing, I can narrow it down. So now what you're saying is that I'm actually doing the right thing, because I'm
Yes,
testing like 3
on
different.
the
So
right
yes.
track.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. So now our final piece is the pains versus the gains, right? So what matters to the person in your niche, right? So the person that you're talking to, and when we talk about this person, I like to say he or she, they or them, right? What matters to them? Because even if you're selling to a business, you're selling to a person, you're selling to a CEO or a receptionist or a salesperson, you're selling to someone. So what matters to them, right? Pains versus gains. So when we think about our pains versus our gains, your pains are the things that your micro niche, the person in that tiny little bucket, they're experiencing. The gains are the things that they will gain from working with you. So Tatiana just said that she's working with people that are living paycheck to paycheck. So a pain will be the money runs out before they get their next paycheck, right? So that's a pain. A gain that directly correlates to that pain is by working with her, their money will last longer, right? Maxine says she helps college seniors get into the college that they desire. So a pain is no guidance for college admission, right? And a gain is she'll hold their hands through the process. And so really understand, you have to understand first the micro niche. Who am I serving? Who is that person? And it's really important to be, I'm so specific on that because the pain needs to be directed to the person, right? If I am going to talk to, let's just say I'm an accountant, I'm selling accounting software. And I'm a software company. I'm selling software to accountants. So I go talk to an accountant at a one-person firm and I say, hey, this is going to help you cut this process out, that, and this. It does accounts receivable, accounts payable, it does everything. That person is going to be excited. If I take that same pitch and I go to an accountant at a company where there are 10 people in the accounting department, they're going to say, I don't do those things. That doesn't matter. I don't care. Like, you're not solving any of my problems. Bye. And they'll never answer another email or call from you. That's why you have to be so specific. Specificity is very, very important in sales. So again, you have to define the micro niche. Then you need to define 10 pains that your target audience, your micro niche is experiencing, and 10 gains that they'll get from working with you. And I like action. Like, I don't want you, since this is a series, I'm going to see you guys next week, hopefully, unless I scared you away. This is what I want you to work on. Define those 2 to 3 mini markets, micro niches, right? And again, depending on where you are in your journey, you may be laser focused on one, or you may be beta testing a couple, but bring them out. What are different things that you can do? And I encourage you, think outside the box. If you say, oh, I'm only doing this, next week at the beginning, we're going to discuss this. And what I like to do is poke holes. So I'm going to poke some holes and say, what about this? What about that? Have you thought about that? And then I want you to list the 10 pains and 10 gains for the market that you feel is number one, the micro niche that is number one for you, that you really want to focus on, right? Whether or not I poke holes in it doesn't matter. I want you to actually go through the exercise.
Awesome.
So now, so that's it. And I want to open it up for questions or points of clarification.
Leslie, it's Maxine again. I have a question. So if my market, I was wondering, I want to do this 10 gains and 10 pains exercise, but because the customer and the client are different for me personally, where I'm servicing and meeting with the student, but it's usually the parent who's in the sales meetings, evaluating pricing and making the decisions on behalf of their minors. Do you think I should do this activity with the parent in mind, the person who's actually paying, or the person who's receiving those services, which is usually the student?
So this is what I call a complex sale, right? And so a complex sale has many different players. And so you have the decision maker, which is the parent, but you have the influencer, which are the students. And in most buying situations, you have those different buying influences, right? So the decision maker is the one that is most important, but you have to think about the influencer, right? So again, so the parent might like that, hey, I'll meet with them one-on-one for 3 hours each week, but the student's gonna be like, absolutely not, I don't wanna do that, right? So you balance it, So remember who's writing your check. That is very important, but you also have to think about the person who's gonna benefit from it. So it's gonna be a balance of both, because again, what we're doing is we're helping come up with this content plan, this reach out plan, emails, and all of these little things that we're going to be working on. And you'll include both, because sometimes you're speaking to the influencers and sometimes you're speaking to the decision maker.
Thank you.
Awesome. Anyone else have any other questions, comments, or anything? No. Awesome. Well, as we wrap up, I just wanted to let everyone know I do have an online sales academy, and a part of that academy is doing kind of what we did today. So there are modules, pre-recorded modules, but we also have weekly office hours and group coaching sessions monthly. So I dropped a link in the chat. Anyone who's interested, feel free to check it out. Or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can send me an email. I'm here to be a resource, and I hope you enjoyed this time, our time together. Again, we'll be here for the next 3 Thursdays, same time. And next week, we'll be talking about prospecting. The following week, it'll be about nurturing. So what do I do in the proposal meeting and the demo? And then the following week is how do I actually close? How do I get the money?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Wesleyan. And I'm just going to drop the